I'm going to say the Dallas Cowboys offense collectively. And, yes, Dak is going to take some of the blame. He's responsible because he has the ball in his hands every play. But I think it was two critical plays that made a difference in this game and why the Cowboys wasn't able to get back into the game. The third down drop by Noah Brown early, I think, on the first drive. That was critical. And then I think the ensuing possession, the strip sack. And from there, they could never recover. And when those type of things happen on the road, big game in Arrowhead, where it's already a tough place to play, it's just hard to recover. They never established the run game from there. I don't think Kellen Moore ever got comfortable calling plays, and Dak certainly never got comfortable in the pocket, outside of the pocket. He didn't do anything to help himself. And the one thing I think Dak could have did was just get out of the pocket a little bit more, extend plays a little more, and try to find some receivers in terms of just getting everybody involved using his legs. And he didn't do that, and the offense itself just flooded at times. So, it could have been better. Obviously, like I said, you can't make those type of mistakes on the road. It certainly came back to backfire on him.
All right, Mike, great point about the run game because obviously Dallas is a top 5 running team. And I get it. You're down 16-3. Maybe you feel like we can't run. We got to throw the ball to get back in it. But they never really tried to establish the run. They only ran it 16 times. They averaged 5 yards plus a carry. I know a lot of that was Tony Pollard had a big run. But they never really, to me, consistently went to the run game enough. So I think you put that obviously on Kellen Moore and Mike McCarthy. But overall, I've got to blame Dak mainly. Because Dak, look, I have said for years that Dak Prescott is en route to becoming elite. This season, I've started saying he is elite. A lot of people going into this game had him as the leader for the MVP. Terry Bradshaw, the great Terry Bradshaw, said before the game that he believes Dak Prescott is better than Patrick Mahomes. I don't agree, but that's what Terry Bradshaw said. And so you come out in this game and you lay an egg. This is on Dak Prescott. And I think the tone was set from the beginning. And I thought to myself, the first play of the game, he overthrew Michael Gallup down the right sideline. Yep. He was open. If he connects on that pass, it might be a different game, possibly. And that set a tone. And then the very next play, he throws a short completion to CeeDee Lamb. Now, CeeDee caught it, but it was low. There was no reason for it to be so low. I mean, it was a good catch by CeeDee. That showed me Dak is off. And then all night, you saw him missing receivers. The play when CeeDee Lamb got injured, hit his head and got the concussion, it was underthrown. And so Dak was just off. And what this will lead to is what people have said about him for the past, really his entire career. He plays great against the bad teams, but has trouble beating elite teams. Here it is. This is for his career. You see, 39% winning percentage against winning teams, 81% against losing teams. This year, he's 2-2. They lost to Tampa Bay, obviously Kansas City. They beat New England, beat Carolina. So I give him, he's doing a little bit better this year, but I put it on Dak mostly, Nick, because he didn't show up and played his worst game of the season by far.
Listen, Dak now all of a sudden has played, since he's been back from that injury, he was awful against the Broncos and he was awful yesterday. And so I'm not putting it on the injury, but that's just the reason it's hard to put on the injury is the game in between. He was outstanding. So you wouldn't expect the injury to affect him one week and then not the other. It's just since that time off, he's had his 2 worst games of the year. But he also could have been helped out more. And when you don't have Tyron Smith, and Tyron Smith has been a good predictor of how effective Dak's going to be, and the Chiefs have struggled to stop the run all year, I was shocked and thankful that the Cowboys ran the ball 16 times and threw the ball 43 times. The first opening drive, 3 and out, 3 passes. Second drive, they ran on first down, passed on the next 2, and the second of those 2 was the strip sack that we showed. So I do think they could have, and even then, because the Chiefs were never up by 3 scores or they weren't, dominating the game, it was always within the Chiefs were up the whole game, but they weren't running away with it. You could have gone back to the run at some point. They never did. And I hate to do this with Mike here, but the other thing I'm going to point out, Wilds, is once again, someone's got to help Mike McCarthy out with game management. That interception at the end of the first half, and Troy said it, that the quarterback feels it when you've got to rush, when things are going a little too fast. He had 2 timeouts in his pocket going into that end of half drive after the Mahomes fumble, and he went to halftime with both those timeouts still in his pocket, nice and warm next to the challenge flag. They're there for a reason. And if you use one of those timeouts, I believe at least you get a field goal on that drive, maybe you get a touchdown. And then at the end of the game, Wilds, you have 4th and 9 near midfield with 8 minutes left, down 10. You just can't punt there. You just flatly, simply cannot punt there. Guess what happened? Your defense held, and it mattered nothing because you had to use all your timeouts. You got the ball back with 2.5 minutes left, no timeouts, down 10. Those are very basic decisions. Using your timeouts at the end of the first half, which he's been awful at all year, and the punt at the end of the game, if you're down 17 and you're like, all right, we're not going to win either way, I'm not going to, I'm just going to try to get home, that's one thing. You're down 2 scores. You got to go for it and try to put the pressure back on Kansas City. He didn't. So I thought the defense played well. I thought the offense as a whole, it was a bad game plan and bad game management.
I agree with you. At least the punt surprised me because I also felt like the Cowboys needed a little spark. They had zero swagger in that game. And when Jerry Jones went in there pregame saying, hey, this would be a hallmark win for us. And the Cowboys got down early, and it felt like they thought that they could not win the game. It was emotionally, I didn't think that they were there. Mike, I want to ask you a specific question about Chris Jones. Does Dak have a responsibility to raise his hand and be like, hey, what is going on with Chris Jones? This guy is terrorizing us, and you guys need to figure it out. They had zero answers for them. And do you think that is just on coaching, or when you were the leader of the team and a guy was terrorizing you, that you were supposed to raise your hand and say, hey, we need a new game plan to stop this guy?
Well, Wiles, it was on numerous occasions where, I had to check in with him to get somebody to try to block Warren Sapp, whether he was in the 3 technique or 1 technique or it was Booger McFarland right there. Those guys were terror. And the reason I didn't make it to more NFC championship games and went to a couple Super Bowls is because of that guy, Warren Sapp. And when you have somebody terrorize in the middle, unblockable, it's almost like you got to deal with it. And then you can't really diffuse it mid-game. It's a responsibility on that right guard who probably was blocking Chris Jones the entire course of the game to make things right. And if he can't handle him, if he can't block him, it's just going to be a mismatch throughout the course of the game. And it's tough, man. It's hard to make in-game adjustments when one guy can't block a particular player on the defensive line. And it just makes your game plan that much more difficult to execute, and it makes it tough to win.
And in defense of the Cowboys coaching staff, which I obviously was highly critical of there, they went into the game, and you might say, well, why didn't they game plan to double-team Chris Jones? Because their right guard is Zach Martin, the best in football. So they went into the game thinking, every team doubles Chris Jones. They thought they didn't have to, and Chris Jones let them know, best right guard or not, you can't single block me. A healthy Chris Jones has been the best D tackle in football, not named Aaron Donald, over the last 3 years. And he reminded the Cowboys that. And Jenna, I think that almost single-handedly wrecked their entire offensive game plan.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.